Here's the squat jump. The version that we use in our ATHENA program is designed to teach an athlete to control their knees while squatting a little bit deeper. Whenever you first do this, it's not very dynamic because the emphasis is on quality movement. When I say quality movement, I mean preventing your knees from diving in when you squat down, when you change directions to jump back up, and then also, and really most importantly, when you land from the squat jump. You will do these after the wall jump. The wall jump is designed to teach you to keep your chest vertical and to limit some of your range of motion so that you can only put the focus on simply controlling the position of your knees. Then we're going to allow you to kind of take one step more and do a full squat jump, where you'll squat down nice and deep, but as you come up, your focus isn't on jumping as high as you can initially. As you get more and more used to the movement and perform more and more reps, that will become the emphasis, but initially it's simply on controlling your knees through each stage of the jump. So let's talk about the stages of the jump. First of all, you're going to start here with your feet about under your hips, maybe just a little bit wider than your hips. You're going to squat down nice and deep. That's the first phase. Second phase is the acceleration up to the jump. So imagine I come up, and then the third phase is the landing. Okay? So let's kind of break down each phase to illustrate what we're looking for. In the first phase, when you have your feet set up, we're looking for feet straight ahead, not flared way out like this. Typically, you're not going to jump like this. We want to, in a sport, so we want to teach your body to move how it's going to move in a dynamic environment when you don't have the choice of how to put your feet. Typically, you're going to jump just like this, feet straight up. Pointed straight ahead. So in that first phase, from the side here, you're going to push your butt back. That's going to settle you back under your heels. So that little subtle movement here is a really primary movement in order to establish a proper squat jump. As you drop down, you want to go to at least until your butt is just a little bit lower. If you can go down farther, that's okay. The reason that we're doing that is to put the knee through a greater range of motion, to force you to control it through that greater range of motion. That's why initially the emphasis is not on how high you jump, it's on that knee control. So I'll squat down nice and deep, and then as I jump up, notice how my knees are out. As I jump up, my knees are going to come back to the center, and I'll jump up, and then when I land on my toes, rock back to my heels, and sit back. So the landing from the side is right there. So the weight is evenly distributed across my foot. I land toe, heel with a bent knee. So let's talk about, let me give you an example of each phase, how we wouldn't want it to look. The first phase, when you're squatting down, a bad model of this would be where you squat down and you squat here forward rather than pushing your butt back. That's the first improper movement, because this loads my quads. It leaves my hamstrings and my butt out of the equation largely. One of the big factors that influences female knee injury risk is the inability or the underdevelopment of their hamstrings and really their posterior chain. So the first improper thing in that first phase is getting the knees forward rather than the butt back. You want this. That's good. This is a bad position to be in. The second one would be, even if I'm getting my butt back, my knees dive in as I squat. Now I'm literally resting my legs together, my bones are pressing against one another. That's what's giving my knees any sort of stability. But now I'm not using my muscles to control the position of my knees, instead I'm using my bones. So that's the second improper model of a squat jump for the first phase. So we want just that position right there, where the knees come out over the outsides of the feet. Chest is still vertical, even though you'll be leaned forward a little bit because you're deeper. The second phase, let's talk about improper models. Really, the primary one is that as you start to change direction, you allow your knees to come together like this. So now I'm in that same position, but now there's a lot of dynamic stress on my knees. So I've got some jeopardy there for protecting my knees. It's important to control your body, control your knees through that explosive range of motion, and only go as fast as you can without any sort of knee dive. Let's say that I'm an athlete, I'm doing a squat jump, and I do one, and I kind of do it nice and slow, and my movement is really nice. And then I say, okay, well, I'm going to speed it up now. So I try to go a little faster, and then I see some dive. Here, I know that that's too dynamic for me to control. So I have to, that's too fast of a movement. I would have to slow down again to be able to control what's happening to my knees. So an improper model for the second phase is as you come back up, you'd have any sort of knee dive. A proper model is just as you come up, your knees simply track straight up, and then come right into your hips. For the third phase, the landing. An improper model would be, the first one would be to land straight-legged like this, like basically almost landing on your heels rather than landing on your toes, and also with straight knees. For whatever reason, adolescent female athletes tend to land a lot more straight-legged than their male counterparts. But again, this is a problem because it loads the quads and not the hamstrings, so we don't have any hamstring involvement to control the knee. A second improper model for the landing phase of the squat jump is to have knee dive again. So if I were to jump up and then I would come together, and as I come together, one or both of my knees come together. As I'm landing, I've got a lot of force. I've got the force of my weight and gravity pulling on it that forces me there. So I've got a lot of forces now going through my knee, but my knees aren't controlled by my muscles. Again, it's being controlled by my connective tissues. I can't flex connective tissue, nobody can. And so if that connective tissue gets to a break point, it experiences a force that is going to break it, I can do nothing to control it if I'm in this position. So for the landing phase, the improper models would be straight leg landing or landing with one or both knees diving in. So just to give you a couple of good examples of what the squat jump looks like that we use in our ATHENA program, it's here. That's the squat jump.